Hello everyone, today I'll be giving you the narration of the entire Wuthering Waves 1.0 story. Just a quick note that I may mispronounce the names of some of the characters and the places. Also, some parts will be my own interpretation, so if you believe that I'm wrong, please let me know. I will be skipping a lot of technical terms as it doesn't pertain to the story. However, if one does appear, I'll make sure to explain what it means in an easy way to understand. This is my first time doing this, so let me know if there's anything I can improve on. Let's begin. We start the story with Rover slowly waking up in a sea of stars with a woman they don't recognize. She proceeds to pierce Rover's chest and pulls something out before transferring it to their right hand. On that hand, a tacit mark formed. After smiling at Rover, she pushed them into a wormhole, entering a world filled with waveforms and frequencies. They wake up on Solaris 3 in the Etheric Sea. For context, Solaris 3 is the world that Rover will be exploring. The Etheric Sea is a special weather phenomenon where the sky resembles an ocean's surface. Thus, Rover's story begins. They faint once more, falling from the Etheric Sea to the ground, arriving in Huanglong, one of the 6 nations of Solaris 3. Rover was awakened by an outrider and a patroller of Jinzhou, Yang Yang and Qisha. Without any memories of their past, Rover decides to accompany the two of them to Jinzhou. As they journey forward, they pass by an incomplete statue of Jue, the guardian of Jinzhou. This triggered a memory in Rover, seeing a vision of Jue approaching them. Our group continued their journey and met up with Baizhu. There, they encountered an Overlord-class tacit discord named Crownless. After defeating Crownless, it became an echo that couldn't be absorbed through normal means. As the group was about to leave, something in Rover's hand said, "Hungry." Rover's hand moved by itself, absorbing the echo into their body. Shocked by this strange power, the group questioned Rover, but without their memories, Rover couldn't answer. From the history of Huanglong, the group understood that although it was a strange power, it wasn't unprecedented. A very powerful and ancient being in the past had a similar power to absorb echoes into their body. As the group discussed the mysteries behind Rover's power, they receive a holographic message sent to all people of Jinzhou from the magistrate herself, Jinzi. There is a visitor of Jinzhou that holds the utmost importance to her, someone that has a lot of questions and strange things that are happening around them. Jinzi invites them as an esteemed guest of Jinzhou and to meet her at City Hall. The group agreed that Jinzi was talking about Rover and continued to guide them to Jinzhou. Moving on, Rover arrives at City Hall. They didn't meet Jinzi but found Sanhua, bodyguard of the magistrate, instead. She gives them 4 tokens and set up an appointment with Jinzi in 3 days. Rover is advised to explore what these tokens represent before their meeting, and that these tokens are clues to help acquire information that they desire. The tokens are a black fruit called the mangosteen fruit, a purple leaf, a sundial, and a sugar pearl. Before leaving, Sanhua tells Rover that Jinzi and the city require their assistance, inviting them to learn about the situation before making a decision. She gave Rover full access to visit any part of Jinzhou as they pleased. Meeting up with Yang Yang and Qisha outside City Hall, Rover decides to head to Huashu Academy with Yang Yang for a physical examination with Baizhu. There, they got acquainted with Mortefi, head of the branch of Tacitite weaponry. You enlist the help of both Mortefi and Baizhu to help uncover the clues hidden inside the 4 tokens while taking the physical exam. For the physical exam, you enter a training ground built after the Sonorosphere. So before we move on, let me explain. First, we have to understand that remnant energy is a pure form of frequency energy that records information. If you think about the definition of remnant, meaning a surviving trace, it makes a bit more sense. Now, if we were to harness that remnant energy and store it in a small dimension, you have something called a Sonorosphere, a realm of illusion made using remnant energy. Things you encounter here are not actually real, but remnants of the past. While taking the physical exam, an error occurs in the Sonorosphere. Rover encounters a mysterious tacite discord wielding a scythe, a giant illusory moon sitting behind it. As Rover approaches the tacite discord, it attacks them while whispering the words, "Leave, Mother." After regaining consciousness, Rover explains what they saw inside the Sonorosphere. Baizhu believes that the remnant energy in the Sonorosphere resonated with Rover's subconsciousness, pulling a memory from their past. Coincidentally, the mysterious tacite discord and a giant moon Rover described is similar to a past event that happened in Jinzhou. Outside of errors that occurred, Rover was in perfect health. Moving on, Rover got some updates on the tokens they asked for help with. Mortefi found that the sundial is actually an incomplete puzzle box with an inner compartment. Inside that small compartment was a small scroll. To not risk destroying the scroll, Mortefi completes the sundial and advised Rover to solve it. This is important to note. The sundial has 12 earthly branches and 4 symbols. The earthly branches indicate the time, while the 4 symbols indicate direction. It's an intricate way of recording time in Huanglong that is still used in database and library organizations today. Regarding the 3 other tokens, Baiju provided the information. The mangosteen fruit is nothing special but an ordinary fruit. The purple leaf contains 2 frequencies from 2 distinct sources that was from an area filled with chaotic energy. Sugar pearl is actually a vaccine from 20 years ago during a children's epidemic. The sources on this incident was found in the Wei shelf of the Academy's archives. The term Wei is very important here as it's one of the clues to solving the sundial, as Wei is one of the 12 earthly branches. Rover and Yang searched the Wei shelf for information regarding the sugar vaccine. They acquired 2 archives from their search. One was the first resonator. The second was the sugar pearl vaccine and tacit discord outbreak. I won't bore you with the details, so I'll give you the important bits from the archives. For the first resonator, this was a long time ago. They were an amnesiac with a tacit mark on their right hand. Their pupil and mark display a golden halo when using their power. Sounds familiar? They have multiple spectrum patterns, meaning they harmonize with multiple things in the world, and a short story of them fighting against Crownless and standing next to Jue after their victory. That day marked the founding of Jinzhou. For the sugar pearl vaccine and tacit discord outbreak, it was dated around 20 years ago. It was called Nova Fei, a highly contagious disease affecting children under 6. The first resonator was cited helping with the transport of the vaccine during that time. After acquiring the information, Rover and Yang decide to leave Jinzhou to learn more about the mangosteen fruit. On their travels, Rover meets a young monk named Jiang Shin, helping an old man find his missing grandson. The group arrives at a military base assisting Jiang Shin in finding the young man before parting ways. From one of the soldiers, they were able to get information regarding the mangosteen fruit. Rover learns 2 things regarding the mangosteen fruit. When showing it to the soldier freaked out, assuming it was a tacitite grenade. This is my personal thoughts, but I believe Jin Shi was trying to convey to Rover of their current war against the tacit discord, showing the soldiers' PTSD and their current situation. Second, the more important thing is that the mangosteen fruit is imported from a port located south of Jinzhou. As Rover was gathering their thoughts, the same voice came from their tacit mark, asking for food before they had a vision. Rover saw through the eyes of a tacit discord, seeing a weird-looking moon, a girl in red, swarm of tacit discords, and Ji Yan, general of the Midnight Rangers. After sharing their thoughts with Yang, Rover moves to another token, the purple leaf. The fluctuation inside the leaf had coordinates pointing towards Chi village. Arriving at Chi village, Rover and Yang discovered the traces of a ritual. A tacit discord was also found there, but unlike the other tacit discords, it was docile. It kept repeating the same lines and cries, asking for help, as if the village was speaking through it. Next, our duo discovered traces of Thraxidus, specifically Scar, an overseer, described as a man that sees no order and revels in destruction. As the investigation continues, they got ambushed. Yang got teleported away as Scar appears in front of Rover. He describes himself as cruel and twisted maniac, one of the many onlookers watching Rover. Scar's tone during this conversation is as if he's talking to a close friend. He tells Rover that they are at the center of attention, they have value that everyone knows about, and that are fighting to possess them. Scar tries to convince Rover that of the many people watching them, he was the only one that's honest. After the introduction, Rover questions Scar regarding what happened to Chi village. Scar provides the information but in the form of a story and wants Rover to come to their own conclusion. The players of Chi village story is an innocent girl, a revered leader, and a flock of simple villagers. Scar proceeds to tell his story, although not the one of Chi village, it was similar. I do recommend checking out the narration of the story in game, but if not, here's a summary. A village full of white lambs was visited by a shepherd that granted them comfort. The shepherd was worshipped like a god due to his wish-granting powers. However, as they celebrate their god every night, one black sheep noticed that the flock was dwindling day by day. In reality, the wishes came with a price, but the flock was willing to be his accomplice, except for one, the black sheep. When the black sheep broke an unspoken rule by bringing attention to the dwindling herd, the shepherd no longer granted wishes, blaming it on the black sheep. The black sheep was then sacrificed by the flock for the flock's delusion of comfort. In the case of Chi-Chi village, the black sheep was the innocent girl, the shepherd was the leader, the flock were the villagers. After Scar's story, he mentioned that he was not the shepherd, but the black sheep that breaks the rules. He says that Rover was just like him, a black sheep. One thing leads to another, and a fight breaks out between the two. Defeating Scar in battle, with Yang Yang's help, Rover broke out of Scar's Elysium. Both parties were about to go for round 2 before a mysterious woman in red appears. She stops Scar from escalating the situation and leaves with him. Rover and Yang Yang continues to investigate the village, and under that village they found the diary of the innocent little girl. After concluding the investigation, Rover and Yang Yang returns to Jinzhou. It was time to solve the sundial. Note, this will be my interpretation and understanding of what each token represents. First, the leaf was to provide Rover with information on Fraxidas and the type of organization they are. Second, the mangosteen fruit is to give Rover perspective on the current war and conflicts that Jinzhou is going through. More importantly, it being imported from the south is the clue you need to solve the sundial. Third, the sugar vaccine is information on the previous first resonator sightings in Huanglong. It's relating to Rover's lost memories and them existing in Solaris 3 in the past. It is also a hint to solving the sundial as it was categorized in the Way Shelf, which is one of the 12 earthly branches. Lastly, the sundial is a puzzle that needs to be solved. Using the clues, Rover solves the sundial. They receive a map with a hidden route to the Grand Library. Using the shadow of the sundial, Rover was able to pinpoint the location and time to meet Jinxi. Note, although the game proceeds with entering the Grand Library first, I'll be doing this in chronological order. Before entering the Grand Library, Rover meets with Jinxi at the crack of dawn. From the meeting, Rover gains some important information regarding Jinzhou's situation and Fraxidas' plan. I'll be breaking the information down in bullet points. 1. Joy is captured by Fraxidas. 2. Fraxidas plans to cause another lament. 3. They learned about Rover's value through Dre. 4. They plan to resurrect the Threnodian in advance. Jinxi proceeds to officially request Rover's help in protecting Jinzhou and fighting against the Threnodian. After hearing them out, Rover accepts, and the next day they proceed to enter the Grand Library. Entering the library through a secret route, Rover was about to access the terminal before being interrupted by Scar. However, this was a trap laid out by Jinxi beforehand, and with her and Sanwo's help, they were able to capture Scar. With Scar captured, we learned that Dre can predict and correct future events. That was the main reason it was abducted. The Threnodian holds the key to true lament. Rover was one of the Fraxidas before they lost their memories. Dre made a prophecy a long time ago that Jinxi will have to fight Dre, deciding the fate of Jinzhou. Before leaving, Jinxi tells Rover to look for Black Shore, an intelligence organization that operates in the shadows. Rover was given a picture of Blake Bloom, the symbol of their organization. The picture triggered something in Rover's memories. In the vision of them standing in front of Dre, on their chest was a Blake Bloom. After Rover leaves the Grand Library, Jinxi receives a call from Chang Li, her master. It turns out that Chang Li was the one responsible for the token that Rover had to solve. Jinxi leaves for Mount Firmament, the last place she sends Dre. It is the place where the first people of Jinzhou lived and where Dre first manifested. Meeting up with Yang Yang and Qisha, Rover learns some history of Jinzhou, a chapter called Battle Beneath the Crescent. I'll be summarizing the story, but I recommend you watching the cutscenes for it in-game. Overthrax is the Threnodian of war. It feeds on the frequencies of weapons. With Jinzhou being a land of constant conflict with tacit discords, it was the perfect place for it to manifest. The then general of the Midnight Rangers, Geshu Lin, wielders of the Black Flame, confronted the threat. He was doing well until the retroact reign began. Geshu Lin ordered his troops to stand firm and not waver. He sacrificed his body to the Black Flames, attacking Overthrax, stopping its manifestation, but was never seen again. Without a leader, the soldiers despaired, but Jian took the lead and earned them a hard-won retreat. With Dre's blessing, he became the new general. The heavy loss in that battle was blamed on Geshu Lin, earning him notoriety in Huanglong. After the history lesson, our group moves on to finding clues about Black Shore. Following the clues of the Blake Bloom, they were introduced to Verena, a plant-type resonator, located just outside the city. Although Verena was not able to pinpoint the flower's origin, she was able to make the group a similar-looking copy for them to wear to bait out Black Shore members. As the group was about to return to Jinzhou, Yang Yang found evidence of them being followed. Rover decided to investigate by themselves while Yang Yang and Shisha drew out Black Shore members back in the city. Rover discovers a white-haired girl who seems to be looking for them. Engaging in battle and pinning her down, Rover learns that she's the bloom bearer of Black Shore. The Blake Bloom is actually a symbol of their mission, to save the world. The girl feels that Rover is familiar and had been protecting them from the shadows. She was the reason why Fraxidus didn't interrupt the meeting between Rover and Jinxi. She seems to hold a similar obsession to Rover, like Scar, calling them her special seed. As they were talking, Rover's communication device rings. In that moment of distraction, the girl escapes and gives Rover her name, Camellia. Returning to the city, Yang Yang and Shisha were holding onto a suspicious individual. This person introduced himself as Alto, an information broker. Alto was actually looking for his companion, a small pink-haired girl named Encore. She was tasked with keeping an eye on Rover. Before Encore says too much, Alto disappears, followed by Encore, saying they have a war to save. The escape was actually a plan to separate Rover from the group. The two formally introduced themselves as members of Black Shore. In exchange for information, they are requesting Rover's help in recovering a resonance beacon. As a sign of sincerity, Alto gives Rover a Blake Bloom as a gift. Rover agrees to help them and left for Winding X's Mire. Winding X's Mire is a research location for the Court of Savante. They are known for automata mechanics and bizarre research. The researchers from this facility all went missing. The resonance beacon is located in the research facility. It was crucial to recover this beacon as they were used to monitor the disasters that could happen across the world. I will summarize the exploration of the facility before you fully turn on the power. The researchers were trying to recreate the retroact rain. Before we move on, let me explain. Retroact rain are condensed remnant energy droplets that conjures phantoms of the past. In a real environment, they will show you phantoms and illusions of the people and creatures that wandered through there. In the case of the facility, it showed phantoms of previous researchers discussing their research and findings. At one point in time, an ancient civilization existed at Winding X's Mire. The hope was to recreate the divine miracle from that ancient civilization using the artificial retroact rain. If it didn't work, their backup plan was the artificial tacit field. During your exploration, you will find research memos and entries. There were two notable points. First, the research into retroact rain was stagnant, so they went with their backup plan, the artificial tacit field. Second was the research subject, A038. It was born from the artificial tacit field. It was responsible for the missing researchers, consuming them. One of the entries called it Imitation of God. Once the group restores power to the facility, a cutscene regarding Phantom plays out in front of them. A researcher monologuing to himself, bowing to a figure. Their research was derailed through fears of death and thirst for the truth. They went in search for a miracle but encountered a fake that cost them their lives. Something to note is that the researchers said, "Future being hailing from our past, please save us once again." A mysterious woman hologram appears. Instead of looking down on the researcher, she turns to Rover and makes eye contact with them. Alto asks Rover if they knew her, making it seem like he has a connection to her as well. After the scene disappears, the group continues on with their search for the resonance beacon. They encounter A038's true form, the Mech Abomination. After defeating the Mech Abomination and recovering the resonance beacon, Alto provides Rover with information as promised. The key takeaway is that it's not the first time that Rover has awakened. They have awakened once before at Black Shore. The Blake Bloom he gave Rover is actually a key to Black Shore's HQ, showing how much he trusts Rover. After finishing the exchange, Alto checks the resonance beacon, only to find out that the real retroact rain has begun. To make matters worse, a distress call from Yang Yang came in saying there is a Tacet Discord outbreak in Jinzhou. The scene moves to Northfall Barrens, the front line against the Tacet Discord and the Thermodian Overthrax. Jiyan was experiencing the phantoms from the retroact rain, seeing Geshu Lin's phantom. It turns out during the battle beneath the crescent, Jiyan had warned Geshu Lin about the abnormal rain. However, Geshu Lin did not take the advice and believed that this was their only chance to stop Overthrax, and the sacrifice did not matter. Defeating the Phantom, more Tacet Discord arrives at the base but were not aggressive. Jiyan believes that someone is commanding them. The scene moves to the mysterious girl in red that was with Scar, summoning Tacet Discords from the water, like a conductor of a musical performance. Her baton, the red spider lily, is also known as the Corpse Flower. We return to Rover in Jinzhou, helping hold off the Tacet Discord outbreak. Talking with Alto and Don Jin, Rover learns some key points regarding the situation. First, the Thermodian's resurrection is never independent. They can sense one another through a telepathic link. This will trigger events and affect other nations. Second, Thermodians can strengthen the retroact rain, causing phantoms to become realistic, inflicting harm on humans. Alto and Encore returns to Black Shore to warn the other nations of the upcoming disaster and hopefully prevent them. The Tacet Discords continued their attack on Jinzhou once more, and as the Avengers assembled to dispatch them, it was time to fulfill the prophecy. Rover and Yang Yang leaves for Northfall Barrens to meet Jiyan. Meeting up with Jiyan, Rover learns about the prophecy given to him by Jue. When the moon turns full, a roving traveler shall return to reclaim their power from Overthrax. As the group continues to the military base, the Overthrax statue resurfaces, symbolizing its resurrection getting closer. A veil-like barrier was protecting the statue while absorbing the frequencies of weapons. At the base, Rover meets up with John Shin, who will be lending them a hand. To break through the barrier and get to Overthrax, the team made use of an ancient energy cannon. With the barrier down, the team of Resonator pushed forward. In anime fashion, teammates start staying behind so Rover can continue on. First, it was John Shin. Second, it was Yang Yang. Rover and Jiyan enters the heart of the statue. It was a strange dimension. In front of them was what seemed to be a throne. Behind it, an abnormal moon. In front of the throne was a resurrected Crownless. The final battle begins, and after defeating Crownless, its frequency was absorbed by the abnormal moon. Overthrax emerged. From Overthrax, Dreamless appeared. As Rover starts beating Dreamless in battle, it does an enraged attack in which Jiyan protects them, taking the brunt of the blow. Enraged, Rover struck Dreamless with their bare hands, breaking its shield and forcefully absorbing its power. Using the newly acquired power, Rover and Jiyan defeats Dreamless, causing it to self-destruct. As Rover stood in front of Jiyan to protect them, a small creature appeared from their Tacet mark, consuming the explosion. Using this chance, Overthrax ran away, and the war concluded with Jinzhou's victory. I hope you liked the summarization of the story. Although it's a bit of a long video, I'm glad you were able to reach the end. Something to note is that there are some parts I want to give my analysis on, but I couldn't because this was a narration of the actual story. Analysis will be in a different video.
If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. If you have any questions regarding the story or lore, let me know in the comments below.
This is Jin checking out. I hope you look forward to my next video.